Protein, our third type of organic molecule. Proteins are made from amino acids. So just like monosaccharides are the building blocks of carbohydrates, fatty acids can be thought of the building blocks of a triglyceride. Amino acids are the building blocks of a protein. And the human body requires about 20 different amino acids. And these different amino acids have different properties. But when you chemically bond many amino acids together, that chemical bond, is known as a peptide bond. That's the bond in between amino acids. And you produce a larger molecule called a protein. Proteins, one of the most important characteristics of a protein is that it must fold in order to function. So this is typically what we would call the primary structure. It's just what amino acids are bonded together. That amino acid chain then goes through a folding procedure, and there's a secondary, a tertiary, and a quaternary structure. We're not going to go into that much detail of these different levels of folding or structure, but you can see down here the ultimate goal is to get this long polypeptide, which is a long chain of amino acids, all folded properly. Then that protein will function. So it could be hemoglobin, which is a protein found in your red blood cells that transports oxygen. Well, if hemoglobin does not fold properly, it cannot transport oxygen very well. So folding of a protein is extremely important in the function of that protein. If we look at protein in our diet, we have to unfold protein in our foods. We do that by cooking it and by having an acidic stomach. So when we get to the digestive system, we look at proteins a little differently. Dietary proteins have to be unfolded. We call that denaturing the protein. But the proteins produced by our cells must be in their folded state in order to function properly. And I'll remind you what that process is called. When you make protein, we call that translation. It's done using ribosomes in our cells, and we'll learn more about that when we study cells. So proteins are made up of amino acids, and then that protein has to fold properly. As far as some functions of proteins, so if we're thinking about human cells, what do proteins do? Well, they are structural. One of the most abundant proteins in the human body is collagen. You've probably heard of collagen. You've probably heard about it in the context of your skin and how it supports skin. But it's also found in bone to give bone some flexibility. It's found in your fingernails, hair, skin. It's found in cartilage throughout the body. So it's very structural. It could be what we call regulatory. So it's regulating the body somehow. And typically a regulatory protein is a hormone that functions throughout the bloodstream, or it could be a neurotransmitter. So hormones and neurotransmitters can be made from protein. A good example of a protein hormone is insulin, which regulates your blood sugar. There's a lot of proteins that are important in muscle contraction. So we will be talking about muscle contraction this semester. And you've probably heard of how important protein is for building strong muscle. Well, there's proteins in your muscles that facilitate contraction, myosin and actin. We have a lot of proteins that are working for us in our immune system. They help us fight against pathogens. So we'll talk about antibodies when we get to the immune system and interleukins. They can be transporters, like hemoglobin. Hemoglobin transports oxygen and carbon dioxide throughout the body. So hemoglobin is a protein transporter. And then one of the most important functions of proteins are to be an enzyme. And enzymes are involved in catalyzing chemical reactions. A lot of our chemical reactions require protein enzymes. So proteins do quite a bit for the human cell. Last category, we're going to go fairly quickly, are the nucleic acids. Those include DNA, RNA, and ATP. DNA, I think we know. We've heard of it. It contains our genes. It contains our genetic diversity. It's the reason why humans are different from one another, is because we have different DNA. You get your DNA from your parents. DNA is made up of nucleotides. Those are the building blocks of DNA. The nucleotides found in DNA are thymine, adenine, cytosine, and guanine. Those are used to build a double-stranded helix, which is found in your chromosomes inside your nucleus of your cells. RNA is a little different. RNA is not typically double-stranded. It's a single strand, and it does not have thymine. It has uracil. So we replace thymine for uracil in our RNA. So here's a comparison of DNA and RNA. Again, kind of highlighting the major differences. You'll notice that uracil is found in RNA, whereas thymine is found in DNA. DNA is a double-stranded helix. RNA is not. Certain nucleotides base pair with one another. Okay, A's go with T's and G's go with C's. We have to replicate RNA every time a cell divides, and the function of our DNA is to contain the information ultimately to make proteins. Where is it found? In our nucleus and in mitochondria. RNA comes in three flavors. You have your messenger RNA, your transfer RNA, and your ribosomal RNA. And those are all used in the process of transcription and translation, which is taking your DNA, making RNA, and then using the RNA to make your protein. Finally, one quick point about ATP. And it's very simple. ATP is our source of immediate energy. And we'll talk more about ATP production when we get to cells and how they make their energy.